everybody, and welcome back to Flock's Nest Sports Podcast. As always, I am Dallas, repping number 52 of the Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis.
As always, I'm Brendan, the other half wearing 54, Bobby Wagner of the Seattle Seahawks.
We got a great episode for you guys this week. Obviously, we are going to talk Week 18, the final regular season week of football. We're going to talk playoffs. We're going to talk Black Monday, a little bit of Black Tuesday as well. Kind of all of the coaching changes that have occurred. We're obviously going to talk about the Ravens last game, the Seahawks last game, and of course, look ahead to the wild card round of the playoffs. I also know Brennan's got some college football that we're going to talk. So, fun-filled episode. Definitely a lot of information, so stick with us. Hope you enjoy. Brendan, kick us off. Black Monday, the Monday every below 500 team dreads. Some look forward to it. They make changes we're excited for, but coaches getting the axe.
Yeah.
Who was on the chopping block?
So, firings that happened on actual Black Monday / Black Tuesday, they kind of intertwine. Starting off, the first person to be fired was Gerard Mayo, who actually didn't even make it to Monday. He was fired, I'm pretty sure, like an hour after that game ended, which means they had made the decision a long time ago. They were ready to fire him a while ago. It was clear, considering, seriously, like an hour after the game ended, it was released that he had been fired by the Patriots. So the Patriots are in the market for a new head coach.
You do not have that long of a statement prepared
in
that quickly after a game. If you didn't know, like, there was nothing that could have happened during that game that would have saved his job.
They even won it. They beat the Bills. And
yeah.
His job was not safe. So there was him. The Jaguars have fired Doug Peterson. Everyone saw that coming. That's no real surprise to literally anybody. The only reason he kept his job through the end of the season is because Trevor Lawrence got hurt. Had Trevor Lawrence stayed healthy through the whole season, he probably would have been an in-season firing, but he did manage to survive.
We knew that was coming. I was shocked.
Yeah. Last but not least, happened on Tuesday. Antonio Pierce was fired by the Las Vegas Raiders. This one was one that we were a little surprised about, considering this is his first year with the team. So that's 2 first-year head coaches getting canned straight away. Definitely an interesting one that I didn't really expect to happen, but here we are.
I have a little bit of a longer take on that. It can wait. We can roll back around. I am shocked at the 2 first-year head coaches that lost their jobs. Unless they completely lost the locker room, I don't know how you can hold the record or the way the season went against them.
Yeah.
When they had far and away the 2 worst rosters in the NFL. Yes, the Patriots have what they believe to be their next franchise quarterback. He had the worst O-line, no defense, and no weapons. Antonio Pierce had no quarterback. Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew do not make a quarterback. They make a very nice backup. They don't make a starting quarterback in the NFL. You still, however, were to get the leading rookie of receptions out of that. Like, good things happened.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how you blame them for 4-15, or 4-13.
Yes.
When, like, what is anybody supposed to do with that roster or that situation? If they lost the locker room or there were serious problems, I get it. I'm hesitant to be like, well, maybe veterans were grumbling. Veterans always grumble.
Yeah.
Like, they want to win now. That's the point. Myles Garrett is having that situation right now. We saw that at the beginning of the year with Devontae. We're not really going to talk about Tyreek, but that's a situation. Like, that's part of it. Unless he has truly lost the locker room or you have no faith in his ability to be a head coach, I don't understand this.
Which they clearly didn't, because they fired him. I guess an interesting nugget on this is because Tom Brady is part owner of the Raiders, he's actually a large part of the next head coach. So,
I would
like
be
in
shocked if it wasn't.
finding the next head coach.
I have
Um,
heard
I've
Dion kicked around
heard
quite a bit.
we might talk a little bit about potential candidates, but there's like 100 of them, so there's really no point.
I I think Vrabel came off the market.
I do too.
I think with the Patriots now open, Vrabel is off the market. He's gonna interview
We'll
with probably everyone, like he's already interviewed with the Jets.
we'll
But I
talk more about this once we get to like all the head coach openings, but I completely agree.
all right, go ahead, keep going.
So that was all the firings for head coaches on Black Monday. That brings the total head coach openings to 6. You have the Jets, the Saints, the Bears, the Jags, the Patriots, and the Raiders in that order of when they fired people. Um, the Jets have put out pretty much a request literally anybody out there. Um, hit all the majors: Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn. Um, so all your standard
Yeah,
ones. Um, that's where I thought Vrabel would go if it wasn't for the
yeah.
Patriots.
I thought there was a good chance either. I thought the Bears. I thought the Bears was kind of a lock. Um,
I think
and
I have a different like.
you thought the Jets.
I thought the Jets. I thought Vrabel would come to the Jets, and then because I think the Bears are too much on Ben Johnson.
My problem with the Jets, I don't think I don't know that Vrabel's gonna want to take on an unknown quarterback situation. And that's
That's
one
fair.
of like
That's fair.
them and the Saints are
All
the
right.
only two teams
Ooh.
that genuinely don't know what they're gonna do at quarterback.
The Raiders don't either
No, that's true.
because the
That's true.
Raiders are not in position
So I'm sorry,
to
those
draft.
3, but, like, the Patriots have Drake May, Jags have Trevor Lawrence, Bears
Fair.
have Caleb Williams, like, I think he'd want one of those.
Fair.
Um,
But yeah. So like, you have the Saints who pretty much offered everybody. Um, Bears offered pretty much everybody. Jags offered pretty much anybody. He was they were the first time I heard Monken's name mentioned. I didn't hear Todd
that
Monken a
doesn't
whole time.
surprise me.
It surprised me a little bit. I thought more people would at least request to interview Monken. Whether he takes the job or not is a different thing.
I I think one right now, like, he's a wait. I don't think even if the Ravens said yes and he was up for that, he'd be like, "We're not doing that right now, so don't worry, like, doesn't matter."
I'm like they
I
can't interview you
also
until after you're out of the playoffs
yeah,
anyway. But
they can do kind of a preliminary phone call.
yeah,
I also think I'm not convinced he wants a head coaching job.
I'm not.
I
But like
think
I'm just
he's
saying.
very content to sit in his box and do what he does and be left alone.
I wasn't saying that's not true. I was just
So,
saying, considering the success he's had,
yeah,
I'm surprised more teams aren't at least entertaining that option.
it's fair.
Patriots, I think Vrabel is an easy. That's
Yeah,
probably what's going to happen, and I'm pretty sure that's why they fired Mayo. Is I think uh, ownership can't think of the dude's name now.
Kraft,
Um,
Robert Kraft.
yeah, Robert Kraft sat there and went, "Well, we like Gerard, but we can get another legacy type head coaching
Mhm.
here that we know is a more proven option. Let's try to do that." Um, so that's what I think. And then the Raiders, we'll see. Obviously, with Tom Brady helping lead the search, it should go well enough. Um, we'll kind of see what happens. An interesting side note with the Bears, they did interview, or they're planning on interviewing Pete Carroll. They're the only team so far that has done that.
The Bears also requested Mike McCarthy, and
Yeah,
the Cowboys told them to fuck off.
which means,
Probably means he's going to get a new contract there.
which is a choice. It is a
It's a
choice.
choice. It's a choice. I understand a little bit better from the Cowboys' perspective. Quite frankly, um I think Jerry Jones is getting older and he doesn't want to reset everything. He has had success. He is by definition a Super Bowl winning coach. I think all of that's true. As Mike McCarthy, I'd be like, peace, motherfucker. I'm gonna go to the Bears.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd want to go anywhere, literally anywhere, other than that shit show. But
um, my take really quickly on the Raiders. I
yeah,
have heard um Dion's name kicked around. I know there's a relationship there between him and Brady. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know if he's willing to leave Colorado. I have no idea. I'm not even speculating on the potential of that. What I will say, I would bet money if that happens, they will trade back in to have 2 first-round picks, and both Shador and Travis will do what Elway, Eli, and I know there's another one I can't think of. I do apologize. And they will be like, "Fuck you! Do not draft me." They will not participate in the combine. They won't do any of it. They'll be like, "We are both going to Vegas. Don't draft me. Don't even fucking call me." The answer is no. If he goes to Vegas, that is what I would bet money will happen.
so what I think you're right, but what I think will actually happen is who has the first?
The Titans.
I think the Titans will try to be like, well, no, because the Titans. There's been a report that the Titans prefer Cam, but that can all change later.
Yeah.
So one or two is the Titans and the Browns. Titans Browns, and then it's Titans Browns Giants.
It-
So one of those three,
yeah.
whoever wants to pick Shador, is gonna sit there and go, "We're gonna take him no matter what you say, whether he plays or not. We're just gonna take him. You can trade
And
for him
then if you
later."
want him, you're gonna have to trade for him.
Yeah, which I
Yeah.
think would be
I
what act.
I think they will have to trade up for at least one of them. Um,
I think they have to trade up for possibly both.
I don't know. I do think there's a chance when you look at the way the league is right now that every team goes, fine. I don't want to fucking deal with it. I don't want to deal with the headache and the bullshit.
I
Do
wouldn't
what you're
want.
doing. We'll move on.
I wouldn't want to deal with the headache for Shador. But
Maybe
if
Travis though.
but if Travis is there,
Yeah.
I'd be like,
And I think that's why I think they have to trade up for Travis. I think Shador they could get with their 6th pick.
yeah, because I
If
think
he doesn't participate in the combine and he makes it very clear, like, don't fucking draft me, they'll be like, all right, fine, fuck it. Fine. Travis, I think you have to move up for,
you
or you
have to
have to
get.
offer something.
Honestly, you have to get to two. Like,
So, but I think if Dion goes there, I'm not saying he's going to. I don't
I'm
think he will.
I'm not convinced he
I
will.
I've just heard the name kicked around. If he does, I think that's what happens.
Because I think Dion knows that his power is within college football.
Yeah,
He knows that
definitely.
that's where his success is going to be. I don't think he's a good enough head coach for the NFL,
That's fair.
but he's a great head coach for college football
That's fair.
because of
Yeah.
what he can do in the portal and
No,
with.
I completely agree. I don't think he should do it. At this point, though, that's just if he's going to do it,
It's
this is the path I see.
yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Um, we do have more openings. So the GM world had two firings this season so far. The Jets fired their GM in season, and then the Titans decided to fire their GM yesterday. So the Jets and Titans are both looking for new GMs. So that's a whole thing. Good luck with that, especially the Titans. Um,
Yeah.
that's like what, two GMs, two coaches in 2 years. I think it's not a great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not been good.
Um, I mean, you have a quarterback problem.
Yeah,
Who you can't blame Vrabel for it anymore. So
stupid. But yeah, so they notably not on the list is the Giants. The Giants have stuck with both Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. They are there next year. Whether you agree or disagree with that, that is what they're doing.
that's the situation. That's the
Mara,
situation.
John Mara, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
the owner, did have a press conference. In that press conference, he said he better be more happy this time next year, which means very clearly they barely kept their jobs.
Yeah.
And you best get it right, or you're not having a job next year. Let's put it that way.
I don't care if they both kept their job or not, honestly. I think Dable should have kept his job. I get not wanting to split up Shane
I
and Dable.
honestly think that's why they kept Shane.
Yeah,
I
no,
honest,
straight up, he said he didn't want different tenured people in because they came in together. And I do think there was concern. You had brought this up that if you fired Shane, a
then
new
you.
GM, yeah.
I
Here's my
don't
thing
know.
though.
Thinking about
Go
it,
ahead.
I don't know if a new GM would, because that puts you behind so much. Like,
Yeah.
because you have the hiring process for the GMs. By the time the GM's hired, you're looking at mid, probably end of Super Bowl, even probably after that, before you actually hire a GM, which means you're behind on the coaching search, which means you're behind on the season, which means you're pretty much fucked.
The only thing, so many people are like, I didn't get my guy. So then the GM's like, I didn't get my head coach. So how well
I
do we get along?
I get that. I'm just saying I don't know if you'd be
Yeah.
fired in the first year
No, and that's
because
fair.
of that.
Um, the thing I disagree with is though, if you're gonna keep him, just keep him. I don't think there's any need to then go to the podium and immediately light the seat on fire.
Oh, because that's what he did.
Like
No,
we
no,
all knew.
he didn't like to see it on fire. He straight up took a like flamethrower like
Yeah.
tank to that seat.
So I don't think that was either necessary nor productive or conducive to what you're trying to accomplish. Like they knew, we could have established it ourselves. I don't think you had to get to the podium like you said with a flamethrower. Like the seat's hot, got it. Best get him a motherfucking quarterback.
And that's I think why they're still there. Is they're in
And maybe
position now to take a quarterback in theory, assuming the Browns pass on a quarterback. Whether the Browns do that or not is a question mark. They
that would
shouldn't.
that's a choice. That's a choice you could make.
They might not be able to take one. Is really what it comes down to.
I think it's really unfortunate, I think, that so many head coaching jobs are on the line this year due to quarterback need, and yet there are not a lot of quarterbacks available.
Available. Yeah.
Like this is one of the
If
worst
I'm
years
the
in terms
if I'm the
of
Browns,
availability.
I know exactly what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
I'm just re-signing Flacco and saying fuck it. Resign Flacco
Even
if it.
after the terrible season he had in Indy.
Yeah, because he had success with you.
Okay.
Because he's shown success with
Yeah,
Stefanski.
that's fair.
So I'm sitting there going, and then even if it sucks, we've somewhat fixed the problem. We tried, and now we're set up to get a QB in the following draft, which is more likely to be a. I think what we're going to see with drafts is it's going to be a good QB year and then a bad QB year. And it's just going to
Yeah.
alternate every year as eligibility and stuff happens, because that's really what's happening. Is you have a lot of guys this year that are able to go back, so they're not declaring for the draft, and that's why we're seeing a slightly worse quarterback year.
I, as many of these teams, would scour the backup quarterback room and see if there's a Sam Darnold light. I'm not saying you're going to get 13 wins out or 14 wins out of it, but if you can get 9-8 out of a Tyson Bagent,
Zach Wilson,
a yeah, um,
I think.
who was fucking what 2 years ago? Burrow's backup, who came in and won
Oh,
like 7 games.
Jake Browning.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are
I
options.
with Stefanski being the offensive mind that he is, I would see if you could find a younger with some upside but needs refinement quarterback that maybe you could put some work into
I
and could
like
get you a decent looking season.
I like the idea of Zach Wilson,
I like the idea very much.
because he's been with Sean Payton for a year as a
Mm-hmm.
second, third string option,
Third string.
meaning you did not have to do a whole to like you
You
spent a lot of time
on the
just
fundamentals.
working with the quarterback coach, working with Peyton, just
Yeah.
very calmly getting your fundamentals in place. And now I think you can go to another place and maybe have a chance
Yeah.
at what's going on. So I think that would be the interesting thing in the quarterbacks,
I
but we'll
and
see.
as Stefanski as that's pretty much the only one. Uh maybe Dable. I would do that as Dable. If you weren't thrilled with
Or
or
if
you weren't sure you were gonna get Cam or Shador,
you don't, that would be your option.
like as
I would at least do, because if I'm Dayball, I'm signing somebody this offseason. Like, you have
yeah,
to, because free agency happens before the draft. So if you're not sold on the draft, you got to
you
hit
need to
free
go
agency.
find. And then I do think right now there's still questions about what's on the table with the Vikings.
Yeah.
Are we dealing Darnold? Are we dealing JJ? Are we dealing neither? Or
Are we extending Darnold? Are
what's
we?
happening?
I think
Is Darnold or JJ available? And
it,
I think that adds an element.
to everybody.
And
And
I
then
think unfortunately that has to be dealt with first. So
you,
we know they're off the table.
yeah, you also have the most likely Kirk Cousins gets cut, and
Yeah.
it's a Russell Wilson situation, and is available for league min.
I think that would honestly be a good.
That could be a
I
good,
mean, you kind of overdo the room,
but that could be a good
but maybe
Browns.
like the Giants or the Browns,
Yeah,
you go get one of those backups that we were talking about that we think has potential
I don't know if I'm doing that for the
and a
Browns, because the
bridge
Browns
guy.
have so many
That's why I said
guys.
it's a lot of guys in the room. So maybe as the Giants,
You
you
do
go
that.
get Cousins, you go get we'll say Zach Wilson, and you use Cousins the way he was used this year in Atlanta. He's a bridge guy to just see to get Wilson or somebody ready into Dable's system
Yeah.
and to make sure he has actually improved.
Yes.
But when you could win 7 games with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers could only win 4, can't be that bad.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Hall of Fame quarterback made the team worse. That's all I'm gonna say.
That is a very valid point. Um, On to some other openings. We got OCDC. So obviously, any team that fired their head coach has coordinator openings. That tends to be how that works. So
Yeah.
teams that just fired outside of that, the Seahawks fired their OC. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. The Bengals fired their defensive coordinator. That comes
Luana
as
Romo.
That comes
No
as
shock.
zero surprise to like literally anybody. The Colts fired Gus Bradley, their defensive coordinator. The Browns fired Ken Dorsey, their offensive coordinator. And then the 49ers fired their defensive coordinator, and I don't know the guy's name. I saw that this morning and went, oh, I
Yeah.
have to add that, and then never looked at the name.
I'm not shocked by that. Their defense took a severe step back.
They've had a problem keeping those guys around.
So,
I
well,
think
usually
it's
they get jobs elsewhere. This year it didn't work out. Oh no, he did fire the last one too, which didn't make a ton of sense. I didn't
I think an
understand that. But
interesting thing that could happen is depending on the coaching search, Saleh just goes back to his old job as defensive
yeah,
coordinator for the 49ers.
I think Sala, Pierce, and
Mayo
Mayo are all on the table
for
for coordinator jobs.
I honestly straight up think Vrabel comes in and hires Mayo to be his defensive coordinator,
I
or at least hires him onto the staff.
For Mayo, I think that would be a mistake. The reason I say that, you've spent so much time in New England.
Okay,
Go learn something else. Go be a part of a different
fair,
culture and a different environment to load your arsenal.
fair.
Right now, you know Patriot Way, and that's it.
No, that's fair,
Go
but
see if
I don't know.
another organization that
I
you
don't know
can
if they
learn from.
do.
I don't disagree with the take. I do think there's a good chance that happens. I think that'd be a little weird. Like we talked about,
Vance Joseph and the
yeah, thank you. I was going to
Broncos.
say Vic Fangio, but that there were years apart.
Yeah,
To
but
just turn around now
I
and be
think
the
the I
DC.
think the difference is I think they played together,
That's fair.
as I think they were
That's yeah,
teammates
they
at one
did.
point. Is I think they were actually did they both play middle linebacker? Were they the two middle linebackers at the time?
I think so.
I
My,
th-
as Brable, it would very much depend on the pulse of my locker room. That is not a choice I would just make.
yeah,
If your defensive captains were like, yeah, we'd be up for that, okay, fine.
I don't know if they did.
I'm pretty confident they played together.
I don't know if they because Mayo's so young. So unless he came in at the end of Vrabel,
I don't know.
Vrabel's 49, so I don't know if that because Mayo's 34. So unless he came in at the very
I didn't
end,
realize there was that big of an age difference.
I didn't either. That's why I'm like, I think it might not work. I don't know when he retired from playing. Either way, these guys know each other well. So, it's one I could see happening.
They did overlap.
Okay.
So Vrabel's last year with the Patriots was 2008. Mayo's first year with the Patriots was 2008. So not a lot, but they did
So
overlap.
it did happen exactly as I said. It was
Yeah.
the end of Vrabel was the beginning of Mayo. Okay. So,
Yes.
like you did play together. You probably
I just
I don't think they coached together because I don't think Vrabel was ever part of the
no.
Patriots coaching staff.
He no. Um I just
So
think for Mayo, go spend a year somewhere.
no, that's a fair take. I just don't think that's gonna happen.
That's fair. That's fair.
But that's something for else. That was Black Monday. That it was not as filled with firings as one might expect. A lot
I
of firings,
mean,
a lot of firings happened mid-season,
yeah.
and that was kind of the difference.
And I think coming out of the season, we see our average 6.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
yeah. Any teams in the playoffs that you're like, maybe.
Eagles,
Okay.
and then obviously you're gonna have teams that have coaching like that have coordinators get picked up, so you have to replace them.
Yeah.
Um, the Lions might have to replace both. Uh, Eagles might have to replace one.
Campbell did an interview, he's the Lions, that he would be shocked if Aaron Glenn was not given a head coaching job. So he expects to lose him.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
So,
I think he expects to lose both because everyone thinks Ben Johnson is taking a head coaching job. Everyone.
yeah.
Until he does, I'm of the opinion of I don't know. Until he takes one.
That's kind of where I'm at. Is there's a chance he's like, nope, I like being offensive coordinator. That's what I want to do. It's somebody else's fault. Just gonna have a great day.
I get to make plays. I get to
Yeah,
have fun.
I get to do play calling. That's what I do. That's what I like to do.
I
Dan
could
Campbell can deal with the rest of the bullshit.
I can come up with the creative plays and just be here. Dan Campbell can deal with the media and the bullshit.
Yeah,
I'll just sit here. And I completely just,
I get it. I get it.
more power to you, buddy. That would be nice. You still have pressure, but not a ton of pressure.
Yeah, not a ton.
Okay, well, yeah, that does it for Black Monday. So you wanna?
Alrighty. Yeah, fire filled week. Um, and we will obviously, if anything else comes up, let y'all know.
Yeah,
This, I think, like you said though, unless the exception of people going because they get jobs elsewhere or Sirianni, I do think this kind of marks the end.
yeah,
I think this is probably
like
what we're gonna see.
that's really where we're at. Is I think it's unless
And I think Pierce came because they kind of have a plan. Like
yeah,
that when they wait like that, because you're not sure.
I do. Unless like another coordinator gets like officially fired for some reason.
Yeah.
I think
And there are like the teams in the playoffs have the potential to fire coordinators, and that does happen.
but I mean like now within the
Yeah,
week, I don't
but
think there's any that
no,
will happen. So,
I agree.
yeah, so I think we can move on to the
Oh,
games. You want to talk Ravens?
sure. Final game of the season: Ravens versus the Browns. This game did matter for a multitude of reasons. It was the Ravens did need there was a path without it. Needed to win it to assure they win the AFC North. They did win with a score of 35-10. Starting with the offense. It was a great game by the offense. Cold was a bit of a factor. We saw some drop passes. The one by Zay in the beginning. His gloves are massive on his hands. He is tiny. I took note of that extremely during this game. But yeah, drop passes were a bit of an issue. Lamar threw the ball a lot with 30 pass attempts. Because what the fuck? Because Derrick Henry had a hard time getting going. Um, and with Miles Garrett in that D line, I wasn't surprised by that. Lamar did end the season with record-setting numbers, with the first quarterback to have 4,000 plus passing yards and more than 800 rushing yards. He ended with 4,000 and then 900 and something. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. He does end the season with the second highest passer rating of all time, only behind Aaron Rodgers. Um, and with the best touchdown to interception ratio of all time. He's the only quarterback to have plus 4,000 yards, plus 40 touchdown passes, and fewer than 5 interceptions. And if you back and watch the tape, genuinely none of his interceptions were his fault. It's out there, it's real. Watch the tape. That's what happened. So great numbers by him. Obviously his best passing season. Just one of his best seasons overall. Obviously he broke the record for most rushing yards by a quarterback of all time. And yeah, so did a lot of things. Really great for the team, really great for him and his legacy. I do think, while I would like him to have a Super Bowl at this point, if he retired tomorrow, he is a guaranteed first ballot Hall of Fame. Derrick Henry also set the franchise record for number of touchdowns in a single season with 16, which was really awesome for him. It was his birthday, and he kind of went off in the second half. Obviously, struggled the first half. Second half, he did really well. He cracked 137 yards total. He was like 40 to 60 yards shy of 2,000, which he wasn't even close to going into that game. Nobody was talking about him and Eric Dickerson's record. The final game kind of edged him up a little bit. It was one of his top 5 best seasons of all time. So really great for him. I think it was one of his top 3 in terms of touchdowns. So that was really great. Obviously been an awesome addition to the team. Hopefully we see it in the playoffs translate. Defensively, continues to play great, continues to show those same improvements they've been making. They did have the penalties kind of reemerge of the 10 points, the touchdown drive. They gave up a lot of yards and penalties, including a PI in the end zone. So that's a bit of a problem. We are seeing them really excel at taking the ball away. Nate Wiggins had his first pick and pick 6, which means Nate Wiggins has more touchdowns than touchdowns he allowed all season because he allowed 0, but he has a touchdown. So that was really great. And Michael Pierce, his pick was fantastic. If you watched the game and you watched his post-game interview, the bus was out of gas was fantastic. I prefer he didn't fall like that. Big guys have a tendency to blow up their knees doing that, but he also doesn't have a ton of experience of sliding or anything like that, so I get it. He
I
probably could have just walked out of bounds.
I honestly think
Went,
I
uh,
genuinely think that he just went to take a knee and did not know what he was doing.
no, absolutely,
And there was no
absolutely.
way he was making it out of bounds without being tackled. So I think his mind
So
went.
here's the thing: he went down. Nobody touched him. He got back up,
And someone went to tackle him.
and it didn't work. I just hung on him. And he stayed upright. He's like, I don't know what you're doing.
But
I'm done.
I also
And so
I
then he
think that's
walked
why
out.
60 because I think he was I don't think that's why the Browns player didn't end up tackling him.
Yeah.
As I think Pierce is like, bro, I took a knee. You can get off me
Well, and
now,
I think Pierce is the biggest guy on that team by a mile.
bros.
Like, he's not an easy bro to bring down. I think there's a chance he could have walked it and everyone would have been like, fuck it. We're not dealing with that. He took the knee. He could have just walked out of bounds, and I think he would have been fine, but I do get it. Um, but it was great. It was great to see. It was his first career interception. Um, you love seeing the big guys get balls. Like, it's great. I
It's
I get not running
hilarious.
for it. I probably wouldn't have either.
What's better
And
is I think had he ran for it, he would have come second all time for a guy over 300 pounds to have a pick six in terms of longest pick sixes.
Longest.
Um, which is just
Yeah.
would have been hilarious to watch.
It
That's
it would have been funny. That's why he didn't do it. He was like, I don't need to be a meme. Thank you. Super good.
I'd rather just
So yeah, he was like, I'm out. I'm done.
I'll take my interception,
He was
not
like, I took
risk.
it to the house, I went home.
Yeah,
Um
we won the game.
so yeah, it was just great. Great play by the defense. We're really seeing them stay with their mentality, with the changes they've made. Um we're seeing that play continue to be at a high level, and that's been awesome. Special teams. Tucker continues to be perfect. I was a little shocked he did do kickoffs that game, especially with the wind. I was a little surprised by that. I don't know if it was intentional. He did allow more returns on kickoffs. They didn't all sail through the back of the end zone. I don't know if it's because of the wind. I don't know if it's intentional. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Um, Look, this team is playing really well, and it's playing the best ball it's played all year. Uh, Obviously, they secured the 3 seed in the AFC. They do play the Steelers in their first playoff game. I don't love the matchup simply because it's a division game.
It's the Steelers.
They are one of the most physical divisions in the NFL. I do think that has potential to be a tough matchup. I'm not saying their playoff struggles are gonna emerge or whatever. I'm not saying the Ravens are shying away from it. I don't believe that at all. I, as a fan, though, will be on the edge of my seat a little bit more than I would like if they were playing, say, I don't know, the Chargers. Um,
Yeah, you have to play possibly the team that has the best chance against you
yeah, like
because
your division rival that has had your number for a long time. Um, I
and
don't love
like
it.
Tomlin's been there forever, so
Yeah.
there's
Um,
nothing new to this team. That's part of the problem.
so yeah, I don't love it, but we'll see. Injury news: Justice Hill is back at practice. The illness kept him out of clearing concussion protocol. He is now healthy and cleared concussion protocol, so that's good. And Zay Flowers is day to day. He avoided a massive knee injury, which is great. I'm not sure I expect to see him this week. I think we're more likely to see Hardy, Welker. Aguilar's been pretty quiet this season. I think there's a chance we see a bit more of him. I think there's a good chance they sits. I think this team, for better or worse, will go into this game going, it is not about this week, it's about the next. Um, if we can play good, smart football, we'll get past the Steelers. It's the following week that I don't want to say will matter more, but we would prefer to have Zay back for that one. Um,
Yeah,
I think this team has a chance to make a genuine Super Bowl run. I understand the path is difficult. I understand what that means. I do think this team has the chance to do that. If they can get past the Steelers and everything breaks kind of the way I think it's going to, they would play Bills in the second round. We've already seen that matchup. The Ravens defense has only gotten better. Um, and then the Chiefs, obviously, and I will talk about that game and the crying. Um, I'll do. So it doesn't matter. I think they could get past the Chiefs the way this team is currently built. Lamar did an interview blaming playoff struggles on being a bit antsy. 100% agree with that. When you watch Lamar play, he has moments. I have said for years, I've screamed for years. Certain games, he should come out and run the ball himself like 3 times. Just to shake off the energy, get himself in a rhythm, some dink and dunk passes just to mellow out. The other thing is this team likes to get away from their identity. I am going to say this here. because I'm really tired of the narrative that they have to run the ball, so they take the ball out of their MVP quarterback's hands. Lamar Jackson is the only quarterback in the NFL who, no matter what the play call is, he makes a choice. Whether it's run the ball, someone else run the ball, or throw the ball, Lamar always makes a choice. If you watch Ravens Wired, or Hard Knocks, or any of it, I believe it was the Giants game, there's an interaction between him and Derrick Henry. Play call is for Henry to run the ball. Giants call a timeout. During that timeout, it is on mic. Lamar goes to Henry and goes, "So, by the way, I'm going to keep it." Henry goes, "No, like, hand it off to me." And he's like, no, I'm going to keep it. And he keeps it. Lamar is one of the only quarterbacks in the NFL that can do that. The second Steelers game, Hill's in the backfield. You watch it. If you watch it carefully, 2.5 seconds come off the clock before Lamar actually hands it off. He watches the D line to see how it's going to break and how his O line blocking is going to hold up before he decides if he or Hill is going to run the ball. And Hill knows it, so he does not immediately run at Lamar. He waits for Lamar to look back at him. I say this to exemplify the point that just because the Ravens run the ball, it is still in Lamar's hands. He is the only quarterback that debates between three choices every play call. But they cannot get away from their identity. The thing I've been encouraged about is we saw them struggle to get the run going in some of these games, but they never fully abandoned it or gave up. That gives me confidence. We've seen the Ravens win in shootouts. That also gives me confidence. Yes, I do think Lamar needs to keep his head out of his butt. So, that's what we're looking for in the playoffs. If all of those things happen, I think this is a Super Bowl team. Please, God, win a Super Bowl. Please. I cannot go through the NFL world if the Chiefs three-peat. I can't do it. And I cannot go another year hearing about Lamar's great, but also the worst quarterback in the NFL. Can't do it. I'll break. So let's just have a good playoff season. And even if they lose, they cannot lose round one. They can't lose round one. If they lose, though, but he plays well, that will adjust the narrative. But for the love of God, I need the Chiefs to not win the Super Bowl. I can't do it.
Nobody can do it if it makes you feel better.
I can't go, oh my God, are they going to four-peat? No, fuck them.
If they even have the chance, I'm gonna throw
If they
hands.
go, I'm gonna throw hands. I was telling the roommate, I was like, I swear to God, if they're in the Super Bowl, I don't know if I'm watching it. It would depend on who they're against.
Oh, it's bad.
But I'm like, I can't do it. I can't.
Mainly because I think no matter who they're against, I'm like, they're gonna win.
At that point, here'd be my thing. There is something about who wants it more. And if the Chiefs are that close to a historical run,
there's only two teams that I would say want it more.
The Lions
and the Vikings, because they've never won one.
I don't know that I think it's just the Lions. Because the Vikings are, for not to be disrespectful to what they've done, because it's been incredible, it's been impressive. But there is a level of we are playing with house money, and we're just happy to be here. The Lions, I think, would be the only team that could maybe rival. We want it at least just as much.
Yeah, but...
And I don't know. I'd be like, look, if the Lions win, I'll go back and watch it, but I can't. I can't do this.
We'll see. I'm I'm hoping this is the year, considering how they played. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I need them to hang on. If they get bounced in round 2, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be pissed.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Like, I need Lamar to take this path. I need him to take this path and win the Super Bowl. Now, look, I will take a Super Bowl win over anything else. But I don't want to fucking hear, well, if he'd had to face Mahomes, shut up! I just would like him. I want this path.
Okay. Okay.
And maybe that's more petty than productive. I
Yeah.
could live with that.
Yeah,
I
it
can live with
is.
that.
All right. You heard it here first. She would rather have the harder time getting to the Super Bowl, the less likely time getting to the Super Bowl. But you heard it. Ravens fans,
I
this is
said
what she wants.
it.
She wants to have to go through the Steelers, then the Bills, then the Chiefs.
I'm not worried about the Bills.
I don't say you have to be, but I'm gonna say you
The
have to be.
two I am the most worried about, I'm guaranteed to play first. And if I have to play the Chiefs.
I would still be worried about the Bills, but that's just me. When it comes down to it, in the playoffs, anything can happen. Any team can be anything.
No, and that's
And when
fair.
you have the two MVP candidates going head to head, I think it comes down to which one plays the best of the two. And there is room for either to play great or terribly.
Terribly.
And I think Josh Allen's great rivals Lamar's great. And I think I would put Josh Allen slightly ahead. But then Josh Allen's shit is worse than Lamar's shit.
So I do not put Allen great above Lamar's. That's one.
I would.
And two, I've seen them play head to head.
I'm not. That was like so long ago.
You're right, and my team has gotten better. And I've seen Josh Allen continue to play some of the worst games of his career since. So he had
Okay.
one of the historically worst passer ratings of any game of any quarterback in the NFL since then. He's not played well against playoff teams.
It was in one
That's what
game.
I've seen.
So it
Like
was
he
the
is
Ravens
three
game.
and five. No, 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 no.
It went Ravens, then the Texans. Or did it go
Yeah,
Texans
and
and Ravens?
against the Texans game,
Yeah, I know.
he had the worst passer
That's
rating.
what I'm saying. Thank you
Oh,
for.
okay. You said it was the Ravens. I was like,
I
no, it
said
wasn't.
it went the Ravens and then
Yeah,
the Texans, where he had the worst passer rating game, and then they
and
won every game since
and
essentially.
overall though, he is 3 and 5 against playoff teams this year. He has more games with an under 100 passer rating. Like these things are real. So I'm not as concerned about the Bills. Part of that's the things around him. Part of, like I'm not saying it's Allen. I'm just not as concerned about the Bills.
I would still be concerned about the Bills.
That's fair. Okay, well,
I'm
you're not in the
I'm
playoffs. You should be concerned about everybody.
I'm just saying, like, considering what they've done in the playoffs prior, I would still be concerned about them. They have not won
For a
anything.
reason I'm not.
Okay, so you're not concerned about Josh Allen's 35 points game against the Chiefs? You're not concerned about him going off against the Ravens? You're not concerned about anything?
No.
Okay, fair enough, I guess. That's a choice.
Here's the thing. What I am concerned about with the Ravens is how the Ravens play. If the Ravens play their football, no, I'm not.
I would still be like,
Not with the way the Bills are built right now. That defense is crap.
I'm not saying
His
that's not.
weapons are not that good. Amari Cooper has not been a difference maker. No.
I would still be concerned. I don't
Okay.
care. Like, the fact that you're not is crazy to me.
I don't. I'm confident in my team. I don't.
You can be confident in your
saying,
team and still understand that like you're having to go against a good football team.
I didn't say they weren't a good football team. I said I'm not concerned.
But by saying that, you're essentially throwing them like you're like we should win this and we're going to win
I
this.
think so. Yeah.
So you're okay.
I think the Ravens are far and away a better team right
Okay. Sure.
now. And not to be the asshole here, I guess, but that's the number one reason everyone thinks Lamar's not the MVP. Is because the Ravens have far and away the better team. He has more help. He has more weapons. Their defense is playing better. Everything across the board says the Ravens are better except the record.
Okay.
So, no.
All right.
As long as the Ravens play like the Ravens,
Fair enough, I guess.
that would be what concerns me. It will not be what the Bills do. It will not be. We're not talking about the Chiefs. It won't be what this. It's how the Ravens play. If they fuck themselves, they'll lose to all of them. It won't matter. They won't
Well,
make it
no
out of the first
shit.
round. But no, I'm not concerned.
I would be straight up. I'd be more afraid of the Bills than the Steelers because at the best of both, I think the Steelers are the worst team of the two. I think if you're taking it level,
So that is accurate. But of the teams that know the Ravens,
but I'm still like
the
based.
Steelers have the edge.
Yeah, but based on the last game they played, I would say the Ravens figured out the Steelers, and Russell Wilson is not playing at all well. Like,
I completely agree with that.
so
I
going
completely agree.
into the playoffs, regardless of if the Steelers know you or not, I would be more afraid of the Bills than the Steelers
And I disagree.
because of Josh Allen. I don't
And that's
care.
fair. And I'm not saying Josh Allen's not a good quarterback or not even worthy of. I'm not trying to disrespect the Bills or Josh Allen. It would be very clear on that. I have a respect for the matchup and for what he can do on the football field. But when I think about your ability and the matchup between all units that will go head to head on that football field, I am more concerned about the team with an elite pass rusher against my weaker O line. The only defense that seems to be wildly unafraid of Lamar Jackson. The only coach that has always had his number. That is the team that concerns me. And the more physical football team.
Yeah, but I think
So my team is more likely to get beat up versus
yes,
the team that I stomped the shit out of,
early in the
whose
season,
defense is playing terrible,
that I can agree
whose
with.
quarterback has to be Superman. There is no other way.
Yeah,
So slip ups
sure.
go to the Ravens.
I would say
In
the one
terms of
thing
pure weapons
the
and
Bills
power, matchup goes to the Ravens.
yeah, sure. I just think seriously in this scenario, I think quarterback in the playoffs, especially, is the most important thing. I think there's two most important things in the playoffs is coaching and quarterback.
Yeah.
Bar none. I don't think really you could throw defense in there, but I think defense is its own separate thing in this scenario. So I
Okay.
think quarterback and coach are the two most important thing going into the playoffs. And you're right. I'd be more afraid of Tomlin than McDermott. That is. But also, Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in like
No, yeah, yeah.
so there McDermott's won a playoff game more recently than Tomlin has. Just a fact.
I very much believe they will win their first game. I very much believe that.
No, I said more recently.
No, I know. And I think
Okay.
the Bills are more likely to win their first game. I think they are more likely to win a playoff game this year than the Steelers are.
I still
Absolutely.
think regardless, like the Steelers didn't win one last year. The Bills did.
Yeah.
I think over the past like 3 years, the Bills have like four and the Steelers have like one.
The Steelers have not won a playoff game since 2016.
Son of a bitch. It's a lot longer than I thought it was. I thought they won one. Roethlisberger's last year.
Nope. He was bounced in the first round.
Okay. That would have been why I said 4 years. I guess I was wrong. So yeah, it's been 8 since he's won a playoff game. McDermott won one last year.
Yep.
So still more afraid of Tomlin, but with a
Here's the thing.
caveat.
I agree with everything you're saying. I absolutely do. Does not change my opinion.
Okay. That's all right. Fuck it.
Like, I I've seen the Bills play all year.
I'm not
And I think
saying
they're a good team, and they've been a good team, and they have wildly overachieved. They have wildly overachieved. And I think a lot of that is credit to Josh Allen. I think maybe McDermott doesn't get enough credit. I I'm not saying I wouldn't sit there and go, they should kick it should be another 35-10. I respect the matchup. I respect what the Bills have done this year. If the Ravens play like they should and can, they win that game.
okay. No,
And
that's
I think the same's true about the Steelers. They should win this game. If they lose, I'm gonna be like, as long as Lamar plays well, I'm gonna be like, you play a team 3 times in a year, that's hard. You play your division that's hard. That's hard to do.
I.
These are physical teams that like to fuck each other up.
All right. Yeah. No, I get it.
The
I'm
Bills
just.
game, I'm gonna sit there and go, by all accounts, at every position except maybe quarterback, they have the edge. And I think they have the edge at quarterback. That becomes a preference thing.
Yeah. I still think. I don't know. I would
Yeah,
still.
no,
I would.
I agree with literally everything you're saying except the conclusion you're coming to.
I, okay. Fair enough, I guess. Which means I'm right, by the way.
It doesn't. It
Yes.
doesn't.
It means I've thought it through logically.
I have thought it through logically.
It makes no sense how you come to this conclusion.
I've expressed it very clearly, I think. And
No,
I'm going to
you
be
did.
honest, I think you and I have been pretty calm during this. Like, I'm
No,
pretty
it's.
impressed. No one's
I'm just
yelling.
so. Yeah.
I might be
Okay.
a little bit, but it's not intentional.
I just. Again, I'm out of the playoffs. I don't give a shit. I'm just confused as to why you would think this. Like, you've explained it.
Name an area.
No, there's no area in which the Bills are better. There's one, okay? I'll give you one. Greg Rousseau is better on the defensive line than anyone you have. Period.
Fair enough.
And he's an elite pass rusher. The difference is he's an elite pass rusher on the inside where your better offensive linemen are.
Yeah.
That's the only difference between TJ Watt's better than him, but that's fundamentally the only difference.
Yeah.
So,
So when that's the only
but I'm still more worried about the Bills because of Josh Allen. That's because of what he can do. He can win
and
the football game.
and that's not an
Lamar
unfair
can too, but I'm saying like
statement. And I give credit to Josh.
so that would be my
The problem is I have seen him play against playoff teams, and I've seen him play against the Ravens this year.
and I'm not saying that's not true, but again, because of when he played the Ravens, I'm saying that he's probably gotten
Yeah,
better throughout the season.
but his defense is not.
Yes.
And
I'm not saying I'm not saying that's
my
not
defense
true.
has gotten better. So
I
when I look
I
at
never
every
said
matchup, that's why.
but my point being, okay, going into the Steelers game, I would be less afraid of the Steelers because I don't think Russell Wilson could actually win you a football game. Okay? And I think in the playoffs that matters. is when you come down to it, when both defenses are at their best. I
So I
don't.
guess here's my thing, because
I
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. So this would be my counter.
okay.
Josh Allen and the Bills. Josh Allen can win you a game. Lamar Jackson can win you a game.
Yeah.
The Bills defense cannot cause the Ravens to lose a game. The
Okay.
Steelers defense can cause the Ravens to lose a game. That's my difference.
I don't know if they can at this point.
If right now they are not playing well, and you are completely right about that. You are completely right about that. The way they've looked the last 4 weeks has been trash. If they were just the Steelers, you would be right. Because they are the Ravens' division rival, it has to matter a little bit.
Okay.
It has to be taken into account.
You
As a fan, I cannot ignore that fact. I know the Ravens played them really well. I'm excited about that. TJ Watt was banged up. They had no George Pickens. They had no Deshaun Elliott. I have to be aware of the differences.
but I'm also saying, like, at the same time, I'm taking into account the fact you're division rivals. You're in the hardest division in football. It's a fact.
That to me is the edge of why the Steelers game concerns me more than
Okay.
the Bills game.
So here's our difference. Here's our fundamental difference.
Okay.
You're putting more weight on the division rival, and that's
Yes.
fair. That's 100% reasonable. I'm putting more weight in the quarterback,
And that's fair. And that's
and
fair.
that's where our difference is.
And that's why I think this has been a calm conversation. Because I understand where you're coming from. And I think you, while think I'm insane, understand where I'm coming from.
I understand it more now, and I think
I
you're less
think
insane, but I do still
I
think.
I am putting more weight on the rivalry than anything else right now.
Okay.
If I see a Ravens game, a good Ravens game, start to finish, because the problem last year, they played the Texans, and the first half, we said, fuck it, we don't know who we are, and the second half, they played like themselves. If I see that, I will be concerned going into the Bills game. If I see a complete Ravens game start to finish, I am not concerned about the Bills.
Okay.
Excuse you.
Okay. Fair
Hermes,
enough.
do you want to say hi? Do you want to say hi? That's not how you do
No.
that. You don't have to push shit over. Just trying to knock everything down. It could get real interesting real quick right here. If the camera starts moving, pause. I'll be back.
Yeah. So, okay. That's where we have our fundamental difference.
That's
All right.
okay. Moving on. Talk to us about the Seahawks game.
They won.
They did.
They beat the Rams 30-25.
I feel like for every win, you should just put $4 million on the dollars on the line for Gino.
Huh? Oh.
He had $4 million in incentives.
Okay. I'm gonna be honest. That was part of it. I think the other thing is, seriously, he was balling out.
Yeah.
If you watch it, he was balling
No,
out.
he played great.
And I'm
He played
so
great.
upset. I'm so upset. Because here's the
That's
thing.
that.
Here's the thing. He's been playing like that all season. Okay? Like, other than the fact in this game he threw 0 interceptions. 0. That's the
Yeah.
only difference. You look at the last time they played the Rams, that is exactly how it looked. He
Yeah.
was balling the fuck out. And then he threw 2 interceptions. And it was over. Okay. Yeah. So, he's been doing this all season. And this is the first game. Also, he had a career game. He's never thrown 4 touchdown passes before. He did in this game, so fair enough to him. So I'm like, okay, fair enough, fuck it, you got your incentive. The thing I was having is, seriously, why couldn't have the offense look like this all year?
Yeah.
The play calling actually made sense. We ran the ball a little bit, Dallas. It's a fucking miracle. So yeah, they get the win. Gino looked good. got his incentives. Good for him. Everyone pretty much got what they were looking for. Gino got 4 million for his yard. He actually I think got 6 million in incentives
Oh
because he
shit.
got yards, completion percentage, and wins. So each had a $2 million bonus attached to it. So he got them all. So
That's a hell
congrats
of
to
a
him.
contract.
That was pretty much the only way we got him for so cheap.
Oh, okay.
Is we loaded
Tied
it.
a lot of it into incentives.
Yeah, which made sense to me at the time, and I still think it does.
Yeah.
Even if he hits them, that means he played well. Interceptions were a problem, but whatever. I blame very little on him. On him. I'll go through it in a second. Let me finish the game. So yeah, they win the game. Went out to close the season, 10-7 to end the season. They played pretty much the Rams' entire second string unit. No surprise there. The 25 points was kind of my one issue, but I'm gonna be honest. Like half the defense was hurt for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo was kind of tearing them apart, but the entire secondary was hurt, other than Devin Witherspoon. He was like the only person, and the safeties. But like, whatever. The defense didn't play well, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure it was just go out there and play and call it a day. The defense had nothing to play for, whereas the offense had incentives. So that was the difference. Um, so they get the win, good enough. Finished 10-7, better than last year. Better than what I predicted them at. My prediction when we started this was 9-8. So they overachieved in my opinion.
Yeah.
Kind of unfortunate that I saw what this could have been, and the fact that the NFC West was so weak that they could have made the playoffs kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth in terms of could have
Yep.
made the playoffs easily. Kind of shot yourself in the foot with some of the games early. It is what it is. On to something that happened. Ryan Grubb was fired. We had talked about this kind of earlier that the Seahawks have an opening at offensive coordinator. Um, McDonald did in a press conference talk about this. The decision was made because of the difference in philosophies. That is pretty much how he put it. Um, all things considered, Ryan Grubb was a good coach. He, I think, is a good offensive mind. He did a lot of things well. He, I think, was a good coach, good person, someone you want in your facility. I think the problem is McDonald had a very specific thought on what his offense was going to be, and Ryan Grubb did not meet that. I think McDonald is very much on the hardball coaching tree. He wants to be a physical, run first offense. Ryan Grubb was not that. So I think that was where the firing came from, was just a difference in philosophies, difference in a way of offense. And that's fine. It happens. As I said before, Grubb was only like the fifth option for them. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. We'll move. We'll have some time to talk about the new OC when they're hired. But right now, I'll give you some potential candidates who I think I would want, who I think they'll go with. All these.
Yeah.
So we'll start with someone that they did 2 interviews with last year at the head coach position, and then tried to get him at the offensive coordinator position, but it didn't go through. Mike Kafka of the New York Giants. That is someone I think at the top of the list for them. Again, like I said, interviewed twice for head coach. They tried to hire him as the offensive coordinator, but the Giants blocked it with some bullshit loophole that you could pull. Because if you don't know, coordinators can be blocked on a lateral move. So if you're calling plays and you want to go call plays somewhere else, the team you're calling plays for can block it. But if you're not calling plays, which he wasn't last year because Brian Daboll was, you can move to a team if they offer you offense coordinator with play calling apart with it. But what the Giants did to block it was essentially go, oh, he'll call plays next year, and then they can block the move from happening, which is what happened, which is kind of a bullshit loophole because then he never ended up calling plays for the
Yeah.
Giants. And hence why I call it a bullshit loophole. It's not. It's very much allowed. It's just kind of stupid. So he's, I think, at the top of the list for people of people when it comes to this. I think Jake Peets, who is the Seattle's pass game coordinator, he's in the building. McDonald has name dropped him in several press conferences. I'd say he's a pretty solid candidate. The only thing with him is he's never called plays. Neither has Kafka. And we kind of saw how that went with Grubb. So I don't know if they'll want that style. Another person that's never called plays, but I think he's a really interesting option, is Josh McCown, the quarterback coach with the Vikings. Um, Someone that's been in the league a long time, played for a long time, has been around, and is now working with Kevin O'Connell. Great head coach, great offensive mind. So that's an option that I think they'll kick the tires on. You have Alex Van Pelt. Not sure where he worked last, but a guy that could be an option. Uh, an offensive line guy. I think wouldn't be a bad thing considering how bad the offensive line was this year. You have Brian Schottenheimer, the OC of the Cowboys, who was the former offensive coordinator of the Seahawks. That's an option. I think that is a reasonable option. He has called plays. He knows what he's doing. I think that is a veteran option for them. You have Mike LaFleur, the brother of Matt LaFleur, who's currently the coordinator of the Rams. He doesn't have a ton of play calling experience, but has done it in game situations. Like normally, if the Rams have nothing to play for, he ends up calling the plays. He's one I could see maybe getting a shot. Um, coming from a McVay offense, McVay tree, I could see that happening. A couple more. Tanner Engstrand, the Lions pass game coordinator, could be an interesting one. Coming from the, uh, you know, Campbell, um, Ben Johnson style, could be an interesting fit. And that's pretty much it. Another name I've been hearing a lot is Doug Peterson. I hate that. I think that is a terrible idea. Um, but that is a very experienced play caller
Yeah.
in his own right. So that is
He
an
likes to
option.
throw the ball a lot, though.
Yeah, that is my problem. Is I want someone. I like the idea of Engstrand, Peets, Lafleur. Engstrand coming from the Lions. They run the ball better than pretty much anybody. Peets and Lafleur both come from the Rams organization in terms of under McVay, where they run the ball a lot still. Really good offense there. I do like Kafka. I think Kafka would be a really great fit. Obviously, that is someone that they wanted last year, and is probably someone they'll look for this year as well. Um, I think those are my favorite options, and then I think Schottenheimer is kind of like my next tier. With Schottenheimer and McCown, I think McCown's the most interesting option. Um, least proven, but I think highest ceiling.
Okay.
Um, quarterback's coach, but has played quarterback in the league for was a quarterback in the league for a long time. Has been around the league for a long time. And again, working with Kevin O'Connell, I think
Yeah.
that could be a really interesting option. But those would be my top candidates. The ones I just named. So Peets, LaFleur, Engstrand, Schottenheimer, Kafka, and McCown. So those would be my top options. Who I think they'll go with is Jake Peets. Stick in building is I kind of think an option. Guy that was your pass game coordinator last year. Again, McDonald name dropped him a lot in press conferences, which is a little surprising to me. You don't normally name drop your pass
Yeah.
game coordinator. So I think that to me is kind of like that's where they're leaning. But I don't know. That's just what I think. I think that's who they'll go with. Who I want them to go with. Um, Honestly, I don't really have a preference as long as they come in and we kind of see the run game being more involved.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're going to look at. Is I don't think they're going to hire anybody without seeing prior success in the run game, and I think that's going to be where we're at with that. So yeah, you know, uh, Ryan Grubb is out. We'll see who ends up hiring him. We will keep you posted on when Seattle makes that decision. I would expect it relatively, I wouldn't say soon, considering, but after the Super Bowl, probably you can expect a hiring to be
Yeah.
made, some interviews to come out, stuff like that. Um, some other things with this offseason, we'll look at the quarterback situation, with Geno Smith being on the last year of his contract going into next year, with a pretty large cap hit. I think what they'll end up doing is extending him for like another 2 years, lower the cap hit, put some void years on the end, stuff like that, just to help lower the cap hit into next year. Maybe lock him in for another year after that, and then have void years the rest of the way. I could see that being the case. Um, and then, because I think they will re-sign Geno, just based on what McDonald said yesterday. With Geno Smith as the quarterback, and he believes that he is the best thing for the Seahawks right now. I would say that is pretty conclusive that they are going to most likely re-sign him. Obviously, that is John Schneider's decision, not McDonald's, but McDonald will obviously work very closely with Schneider in
Yeah.
making that decision. Um, Beyond that, things to look for: DK Metcalf in his contract extension, what Tyler Lockett decides to do, um, whether like the Rams game was his last game in Seattle, or whether Seattle extends him one more year but lowers his cap hit, which is very much an option they have. Whether he goes somewhere else, whether he chooses to retire, we'll see. Um, Kind of unfortunate scenario there, but something we'll have to keep an eye on. And then just what the Seahawks plan on doing with the draft. So we'll cover all that as it comes out, as things happen, free agency and stuff. But yeah, I'm relatively okay with the Ryan Grubb firing, especially how he ended the season. I did not really like what I saw from him, but I did think at one point that they were going to keep him, just because this is his first year. You don't really want to be firing your coordinators every season, but they did it. We move on. Let's get someone in the building that can be around here for a little bit, and all's well. So that's really it for the Seahawks. Didn't feel like talking a whole ton about the game.
Yeah.
It was kind of
That's fair.
meaningless. Really, the big news was Ryan Grubb being fired. So that's where we're at with the Seahawks. So we'll keep you posted when things change with the Seahawks. Um, and should be a fun offseason for me. Should be an interesting one.
Yeah. I I think it was better that he fired him. I think sometimes head coaches, especially
Yeah,
young head coaches, they they're scared to make those decisions, and a lot of times it gets themselves on the hot seat
yeah.
with the problems the Seahawks have had this year,
I would.
and knowing what they wanted to be. I think this was the right move.
Uh,
Um,
and I will say, McDonald has proven that if you're not it, you're not staying
yeah,
around at this point.
yeah,
So,
he very clearly from a Harbaugh tree. Uh, really, he's like, get it right or get out. So yeah, I respect it. I think it's good for him, good for them. Excited to see what they do moving forward.
yeah.
And
I would
yeah,
not
I
be
mean,
surprised if he goes after a hardball tree at offensive
yeah,
coordinator, whether it's someone on the Ravens staff or someone on the Chargers staff. I think a name I heard recently was Lamar's quarterback coach, T. Martin, wasn't a name I heard off the Ravens. I'm not really sure who else on Monken's staff there is. The only name I've
I
heard
honestly couldn't
is
even name those people.
I know the only name I've heard is the quarterbacks coach T. Martin. Thought it was an interesting idea. Once again, someone that has no play calling experience. I think there are better names if you go that route, but at the end of the day, that is a hardball tree. So that could be how they do it. On Jim's side, I have no idea. I don't even know who his offensive coordinator is. Oh, it's Greg Roman.
Greg Roman. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea who's under him.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
obviously, we'll see what they do. I would not be surprised if that plays a part in it. If he, targets someone on one of those staffs, as a
Yeah.
replacement. But that's where we're at with the Seahawks.
Nice. Yeah. They did ball that last game. And I was looking up at one point and they were running in the red zone. And I was like, Brendan's pissed.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, fucking.
Like, you ran one play. I don't even think Charbonnet did anything. I think he lost 2 yards, but I was like, Brendan's pissed. They
Yeah.
finally ran in the red zone.
And it's so frustrating to see. But, it is what it is. I think they'll be better. They really need to
Yeah.
figure out this
I
offensive
mean,
line.
10-7 with a brand new head coach, new OC, and new DC. That's not
And
terrible.
I'm pretty sure if you go based off PFF, the Seahawks had the 32nd ranked offensive line.
Then there you go.
And Geno Smith balled out.
Yeah. So
That's all I have to point to is you look
some
at what they
positive
said.
things
PFF is a little
to
bit
yeah, it's a
interesting,
little shaky. But like I
but
got you.
you get the point. They're a bottom 5 offensive line. And Geno
Yeah.
Smith did what he did. And again, I watched all 15 interceptions. I came away with like 8 had been Geno plus someone's fault. 3 were not Geno's fault, and then the rest were completely Geno's fault. So take
So
that
there
with
you go.
what you will. It was
And
what
that's
it
a
was.
real thing. Like, not every interception is the quarterback's fault.
See, I really liked how I did it. So I was, is it Geno's plus somebody? So is it Geno plus offensive line? Is it Geno plus a receiver? Is it just the receiver? Like Geno puts it right on him, receiver hits him in the hands, doesn't catch it, it's intercepted. Or is it Geno made a bad decision in a bad throw?
Yeah, and that's fair.
And that's what I looked at. And again, I came away with 8 were a combination, 3 were not Geno's fault like at all, and then uh that would be 11. So 4 were completely on Geno.
Yeah, and that's fair.
So I think
Of Go
at the
ahead.
end of the day, I think he played all right. I think the Seahawks will keep him. I am in favor of drafting a quarterback this year. I think this is the perfect year to do it. You're looking at a year of pretty much purely developmental guys. Let's get one in, sit him behind Geno, and let's move. That's where
Yeah,
I'm at. We'll see what happens.
that's fair. Of Lamar's 4, none of them were his fault.
Fair enough.
They either all went like just straight up through the hands, like they had it. They went. Okay. One ripped it out of
Yeah,
Justice Hill's hands.
that one you could seriously straight up go.
Like he was like, we fought for it, and the defensive player
I'm
won.
gonna be honest.
And then
That's one where I would just say it's nobody's fault. It's just a great defensive play.
yeah, the fourth one isn't really anybody's fault. It was a batted pass in the air.
You could almost put that on
You
like
could
a
maybe put that
combination.
on Lamar, like a combination of Lamar and a good defensive play.
That's where
Got
I
batted up
like.
in the air. So, but of the four, two went straight through the hands of wide receivers.
One was ripped
Hill
away.
ripped out, and the one that got batted.
So yeah, that's fair enough.
And then I realized before I move on, I did forget the only two players with incentives for the Ravens did hit both of them. Van Noy
Nice.
had a sack incentive, which he achieved, and I believe Henry had a touchdown incentive,
I
which he had.
think the only guy that could actually reach incentives was Gino. And I'm pretty sure that's right. I think he was the only one that actually had like attainable incentives. I think everyone else they needed like
They needed too much.
I think Lockett was somebody that had incentives, but he needed like so many yards. Way too many yards. Um
Fair.
I think that was it. I
Nice.
think it was just Gino going into the game. But he had three of them, so I mean like
Yeah.
he had enough for the whole team.
Cool.
I don't know. Coolest
But
incentive that was hit this year was Mike Evans getting 1,000 yards
like
again.
far and away, far and away, it was brilliant. And not to like, the Saints knew it was coming,
Oh, the Saints allowed him.
and they were like,
I'm gonna be
"You
honest.
got 5? Now go the fuck down."
I'm gonna be honest. You could see this. He ran 5 yards.
Yeah, and they were like,
And the Saints backed up and were like, "We'll let you. The game's
like,
over. We have nothing
yeah,
left. We don't care."
it was $3 million. He ties Jerry Rice's record for 11 consecutive seasons with 1,000 or more receiving yards. In
Yeah.
case anyone was kind of dipping in and out, Jerry Rice had a total number of 14
14
seasons, but he had 11
in a row.
consecutive.
Yeah.
No, and that's, I mean, fantastic. When you think about, like, it's easy to think about the Bucks right now. Like, they had Tom Brady and he has Baker Mayfield, and then he had pretty much shit
In
the rest of
between.
his career
To be fair,
to
he had Jameis Winston who threw the ball a fuck ton.
a fuck ton. It's just not always going to go to you.
Yeah.
Ah, so like, I
It's impressive.
it's really impressive. He is far and away a Hall of Famer. He's
Oh
definitely
yeah.
a first ballot. He's a
Oh,
great wide receiver.
100%.
He's very chill. Like, of the elite wide receivers, he's very much like, I'm just here. He's not a diva. He doesn't make
Yeah.
waves. He's a great teammate. And yeah, to
I
see
think you
him get
saw it.
that was fantastic. I was doing dishes, and then they were like, wait, they're not going to go into victory formation. I was like, boom, and ran back to the computer. I was like, I want to watch this.
I knew it. I saw it. I was like, they said he needs like 6 yards, and they're about
Yeah.
to line up in victory formation. I was like, that's what you think. I'm like, I
I was
know,
like,
I know who's at quarterback. Even if they
yeah.
line up in victory formation, he's motioning them out, fuck out of it and getting Mike Evans that catch. I swear to
Yeah.
God, I know.
So yeah, it was really great to see. It was really awesome.
Yeah, no, that was like the only one I feel like mentioning because that one was probably the coolest. Um, good for him.
It was
Got
the coolest, and I think it was like one of the most relevant. Like,
yeah,
he is making history. This wasn't just
a
I want money,
random
like, or I want it. Like, this is part of history. So that was really great to see.
yeah. So
And yeah, happy for him. Happy for the Bucks. They made the
he
playoffs.
did it with missing games. I think it's just impressive what
Yeah,
he's been
that's
doing.
crazy. Um, I felt like leading up to the game, Baker took several shots at the Eagles when discussing it because he was asked, like, is it important to you to get this record? And he said something along the lines of course it's important. He drives our offense. This record matters to him, so it has to matter to us. And if we win this game, it's because he got the record. And I was like, I respect everything you're saying, and you need this game versus the Eagles didn't, but felt like shots were taken.
Yeah. You know,
Like,
fair enough. Fair enough. It's
here's what I think is happening. We saw a version of Baker in Cleveland, and it didn't go well. And so he was on his best behavior, and he bounced around, and he took the shit, and he did all these things, and now he's in Tampa, and he waited. He
and
was a good
he's
boy, and he made the playoffs, and they won a playoff game, and he got his contract,
and
and
now
now he's back to kind of being chirpy Baker.
he's back to college Baker
Yeah.
because this is how he
Of
was.
like,
So
I'm gonna talk shit, I'm gonna run my mouth.
we're talking about we talked about this before, flag planting or planting a flag on an
Yeah.
opponent's field. He is like the upper echelon of doing that.
Yeah.
Like when he does it, it means something. It meant something in college football because when he did it against who was it? Oklahoma beat somebody, and man, he ran to that and he like waved the flag at the center and then just like slammed that shit straight into the field, and it stuck in the field.
Yeah.
Like
So
he
yeah,
is
I just think he's getting back to
that Baker, which I
mouthy
love it.
Baker.
I love it.
I like it. I'm here for it as long as the play continues.
Yeah,
Like, I'm all for it. But like this year he's ran his mouth about Brady. Um while you didn't directly say, I think you very clearly took shots at the Eagles. Like, I just think there have been things that I like it. I'm here for it. Let's just remember what's important, and that's winning games and winning games in the playoffs.
yeah. Well, yeah. All said.
Yeah,
I want to move on to games of the week. Just quickly
sure.
talk about
Since this
those.
is pretty much the last week, we're gonna have that.
Yeah.
Um, I had Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. I would describe this as a great waste of my time.
Yeah.
And I have never been so unhappy watching football. And I watched the Ravens lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship last year. I watched that game. I didn't watch all of it, mind you. I did watch it though. Um, I've never been so unhappy in my life because I don't know. I try to be objective. I really do. And I can watch the Bengals play and go, okay, this is what Burrow did well, or this with the Chiefs, or no, fuck the Chiefs. The Bengals did badly. This is what I'm seeing, and I can do the same thing with the Steelers. When these two teams play each other, all I feel is hate. All I feel is hate. And I couldn't get out of. I did not watch this game alone. And the person watching with me was the most unhappy they've ever been watching football. They were like, "Can you just go to bed?" Because I'm just yelling. I'm just like, "Fuck that, this sucks, you suck." And they're like, "Who are you talking about?" I'm like, "Exactly." So I've never been so unhappy watching a football game in my life, and I didn't know I felt that strongly about it until they started playing, and then I was like, "Oh, I feel hate in my heart."
Yeah.
So it was a complete waste of time. So there's that. Neither of them are good teams, and that was really the hard part. Was it wasn't good.
Nope. It wasn't.
I understand that it was easy to be excited about what the Bengals were doing at the end. They were having this rise. They were winning games. He was putting up massive yards, massive stats. When you play from behind, you do that. That's how that works.
It's like, but you dug yourself a giant hole
Yeah,
at the beginning of the season.
it was the argument for Josh Allen being MVP last year. He dug himself into this hole, and then when he kind of dug himself out,
The difference was they
everyone
made
was
the
like, "Oh,
playoffs.
look at his." Yes, I will give mild credit to that, as you play in a significantly weaker division.
Well, yeah, but like,
But like, that was kind of the argument for Burrow, is if he had made the playoffs, it was like, oh my god, look at these things. When you put yourself in a hole, you then have to do that to climb out of it. Like, that's how it works. I feel kind of bad for him, as like an objective fan, not as a Ravens fan. As a Ravens fan, go fuck yourself. Um, as a fan of football, I hope this season was a wake up call
two.
of like, we can't let all of our talent walk out the building and think we're gonna be successful. It doesn't work that way. You have to have a good offense and a good defense. I have genuine questions on who Joe Burrow is as a quarterback without Jamar Chase. I don't think that's invalid. I have real questions.
See,
When
it's hard when Jamar Chase is the best receiver in football.
Jamar
But
Chase is as good as he is, but we see it in the beginning of the year all the time when that connection with him and Jamar ain't there, none of it's there. I just have questions. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I'm not saying any of that.
This one
I
I
just have
agree
questions.
with.
As for T. Higgins, I'm supremely confident they're going to let him leave. They're a cheap organization. I talked about it. I don't care so much that he had impressive stats. I do think for who Burrow is as a quarterback, you're wasting his time and his talent. I do hope this season for the Bengals is a wake up call.
Yeah, this
This
was
season, yeah, it was it was a collapse. You just start every year. You can't let all of your talent walk out the door because you would rather do that than pay them. And then they go, but we can win a Super Bowl. You can't. You can't even make the playoffs. Sorry. Maybe in a different division, sure. But you live in the AFC North. You live with the Baltimore Ravens, with the two-time MVP of the league. You live with the Steelers, who, while are not historically a great team right now, they are a good team and will beat you down. Like,
and then there's the Browns.
yeah, that's what they are. But this is the division you live in, and this is what you have to contend with, which means you have to be able to match up, and you can't. Steelers side of things, on the Steelers side of things, I am not going to take my victory lap yet. I am going to wait a week. But friendly reminder, I got on this podcast and I said the Steelers are frauds. Steelers are not as good as everyone thinks they are. And you yelled at me. And I yelled back. And you were like,
I'll
you're biased. And I was
I'll
like, I know what I'm watching.
I will be the first to admit Steelers are playing worse than I thought. See, at one point I was right. The Steelers were better than what you thought. And then they regressed
I
back
have
to
a
what the
take on that.
Steelers actually are.
Here's my thing. Here's my take. A backup or a middle of the pack quarterback will get you about 6-7 wins. Here's it started out Justin Fields. And they went 4-2, and that was fine. And then you brought in Russell Wilson, who nobody had tape on.
Yeah.
Nobody had any info on how that was going to go. And a defense that was playing at an elite level.
Yep.
Like I mentioned, I compared them to the Broncos in several weeks ago, like 10 weeks ago. when the defense carries you and the defense is expected to win you games, you get worse as the season goes. Your defense gets more beat up. That's how the Steelers play. That's who the Steelers are. Your defense gets more tired. All of these things, pause. Hermes, get out of there. All of these things occur, and the team gets worse. So now we are seeing who I think this team really is. Fuck me. I give credit to Tomlin. I think he's a good head coach. But at some point, I would think
You need a
the
legit quarterback.
standard is meant to be better than, well, we never have a losing season, we get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. Still not taking my victory lap yet. I'm going to wait a week. I don't need no juju. But this game was bad. Their last four
Have been terrible.
have been terrible. Tomlin is not good on a short week. Having to play 3 games in 10 days is his worst nightmare. Having to play the Bengals, who are fighting for everything they have, not great. No, you can't win the division. They were fighting for a playoff seed. They had the potential
to move
to
on.
5 and play the Texans in the first round.
Lost
That's a pretty hefty price.
to go from
the Texans are not a good team
to the Ravens.
Now they're the 6th seed and they play the Ravens. Probably one to win that game. I don't think I've said it here. I know I've said it to you. I would move on from Jordan. He is a good wide receiver. I'm not denying that. But he is the epitome of I'm a diva, and if I don't get my way, I'm not involved. I don't care. I don't pay attention. I give up on plays. All kinds of shit. You can watch it every week happen.
And
he doesn't make tackles. He doesn't run his routes. He leads to interceptions.
Every week.
He has problem after problem.
He hits the media, and there is an excuse. Every week.
Yeah. So I think he's toxic to this building. I think he's toxic to the offense. I get he's not that good.
You cut out.
Okay. I think he's a good wide receiver, but he's not that good. I would move on. I probably wouldn't give Russell at this point a real deal.
No.
Would maybe keep him as a bridge guy, but that's it.
You gotta pick your poison with one of them.
Yeah.
Because you need to draft one
constantly
next
being
year.
above 500 is
you can't draft one unless you draft one in the later rounds, and then
when you do draft one, you have to hit.
Yeah,
you
have
can't
to get
miss
lucky.
on Kenny Pickett.
Which no one thought that was a good idea at the time. But
yeah. So was a waste of my time. It did end up mattering in terms of seeding. It didn't really matter for Cincinnati because the Broncos beat the Chiefs. Handy. I do not think the Chiefs or anybody were scared of the Bengals, though. I do want to just give my opinion on that narrative right now. I don't think anybody was sitting there going, "Oh, we don't want the team." Every team, with the exception of the Texans, was sitting there going, "By all means, like y'all are terrible."
Yeah.
The
difference is there was no reason for the Chiefs to play anybody.
No.
And so anyone that's like, it was unfair that I'm like, win more games.
It's not unfair.
Win more games.
They have the 1 seed. They have been plagued by injuries all year. They don't need that game.
I'm not claiming it's unfair. Seattle's not in it. Seattle has a better record than 4 of the playoff teams, I'm pretty sure. Than 4 playoff teams, and has an equal record as 2 of them. The only reason Seattle's not in it is came down to a 5th tiebreaker. 5th. Okay, I don't think it's unfair. Seattle should have won at least 2 more games.
Yeah, like
Seattle missed the
I
playoffs because they lost. That's why they lost to the fucking Giants.
I think there are plenty of. You think part of the AFC is not sitting there going, the fucking Texans made it?
Yeah,
When was the last time the Texans won a game? This how it works. This is how the playoffs work. Like you don't have to like it. Be better. Play better. Don't lose to the fucking Patriots week 1.
yeah. It should not have to come down to the
Like
Chiefs versus Broncos week 18, where the
yeah,
Chiefs already have the 1 seed locked up and the Broncos just have
if
to win.
you had won one more game, maybe 2 more games, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah. Had you beat the
You weren't.
Patriots week 1?
You're you weren't good enough. Not my fault. Not anybody's fault, but yours. So yeah, I didn't know that's how I felt. And then the game started.
You didn't know that's how you felt?
I didn't know it was gonna be like that. I thought I could watch the game and just watch it, and I
That was
so much hate.
silly of you to think that.
I was just, not one positive thing came out of my mouth. Not one. And they were over it.
Yeah.
They were like, "This sucks." So that's how that went. Um, Brendan, talk to us about Detroit, Minnesota.
So this was a boring game as well. This game I was
Way
hoping,
different than I thought it was gonna be.
the Detroit wins 31-9. Well, blows out the Minnesota Vikings. The first half was boring. The second half got more boring because the Detroit Lions just blew them out. So, not a whole ton to talk about. I have one note written down. One. And it's Detroit is my Super Bowl pick.
Okay.
Simple as that. One reason I think Detroit is my Super Bowl pick. I'm looking at what this team's been through this season. With all the injuries they've had, with all the shit that's gone wrong, with all the injuries, everything piling up against them. You lost your best player. You lost your best player on the team. Your defense is in shambles with how injured they are. And I just watched you hold the Minnesota Vikings with one of the best offenses in the league, with Sam Darnold playing his best football, with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Kevin O'Connell to 9 points. And your defense is injured up the ass. Okay? So that's that's the first
Yeah.
part. Second part, the Vikings also had one of the best defenses in the league. Brian Flores is probably going to get a head coaching job based on what he's done with this defense. And you just hung 31 points on them like it was nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. This team, with all they've been through, with all the injuries and all the shit, are still playing better than damn near any team in football. So I don't
That's
know if
fair.
it matters. And what's worse for any other team in football is David Montgomery's coming back after the bye. Alex Anzalone came back already. They're probably going to get Aiden Hutchinson back by the NFC Championship game. So if you're going into the Super Bowl against this team that has Aiden Hutchinson back and is playing like this, good fucking luck. So that's why is
Yeah.
just the way they're playing with all the injuries and everything going wrong for them in that way. I think I struggle to not pick them at this point.
No, that's fair. They are my NFC pick.
They're
Far
absolutely
away.
my NFC pick, and then I'm taking them in the Super Bowl again.
Can't do that. I can't do it.
I know you can't.
That's fair.
You have
If if it's literally anybody else, I'm taking the
no.
Lions.
I understand. I get
Yeah.
that you can't, but at the same time, I think
I
my
genuinely, if it came down to that, I think it is a very close, very good game. I am gonna go the Ravens.
I think the Super Bowl will be Lions Ravens. I think the only
I
reason
fucking hope so.
I think that will be the Super Bowl,
I think that is a great game. That is a great.
and then the only reason I'm taking the Lions is because God damn it, they want it more than anybody else, and it does not matter. I don't care what you say. There is no one else that wants it more
I
than they do.
I think I don't know. I
I
honestly don't know,
I don't care that he doesn't have one. I don't think anybody wants it as much as they do.
and that's
I'm not
fair.
saying that the Ravens don't absolutely positively 100% with all their feelings want this. I'm just saying the Lions are willing to go what they've gone through and doing what they're doing to go win a fucking Super Bowl.
So here's my thing. I think team for team, you're right. I think he, on his own, matches or beats them, and that would be my thing.
Mm, my thing then becomes I don't think one player can want it more than an entire team. So I'm not saying that's not true, and I'm not saying that that isn't a possibility. I'm just saying, in my mind, the Lions as a team want it more.
Yeah, I do completely agree with you. I think I don't okay, I don't completely agree. I don't know that that would be enough of an edge. I'm still not convinced team for team that it's true. I could see it though. Um
I don't.
I think it's close. I do get what you're saying. I'm just not as bought in on that opinion that
I
I can
think
100% agree with you.
I think there's just something different about this Lions team.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's where I'm
That's fair.
you talk about going through adversity
Yeah.
and how that means a lot to a playoff run. I don't think any team in the NFL has gone through more than this team at this
No, and
point.
that I can agree with. When you look at where they started, what their expectations for them were a couple years ago, who this team has been historically, I completely agree with you.
And then with this season being
With
your
all
year,
the
this
injuries.
is your year to go and
Yeah.
do it, and you're injured to all hell. For them to even be where they're at, I
Still be
think
fighting.
I think
Yeah.
that's the difference. I'm not saying that the Ravens might not win. I think the Ravens have the better team. When it's all said and done, I think with Lamar Jackson and the team the Ravens have, they have the better team. But I think the Lions will go into it with a fuck you mentality because
That's fair.
that's Dan Campbell to a
Yeah.
T is a fuck you. It does not matter. We're going to find a way. And I think
So
that would be the difference. If the
I
Lions
heard
win,
it
that's why the Lions win.
I heard a take, and this was not my take, understand that. I can't quote somebody, I don't think. Actually, it might have been Brew.
Okay.
Um, but the opinion was, I've heard it from a few people, was that last year for the Ravens was too easy. And so when they got to the AFC Championship game, it was like, oh, it's a walk in the park. We're just going to play like we have been. And then it went to shit. This year, they've had more adversity. So they think this year they're more primed to do better and go farther.
And that's a fair
So I'm
take.
not trying to say that they've done more than the Lions. That's not at all the argument I'm making. Be very clear about that. I'm just saying I think your adversity comment is interesting because I heard a take about the Ravens. I do think the Lions have been through more. as a team.
Yes, but
Um,
I do understand where you're coming from with saying
like
the Ravens do have.
I think more than they had, like than they did last year, and I think it helps them. I don't think on a team level, and that's why I made the same comment about the drive. On a team level, they've had quite as much adversity, or they've had the the pressure, the things that the Lions have. When I look at him, I can say that's true. He has. And the drive and the adversity and the doubt and the hate and
Sure.
all of that. So that's where I'm not. And if he played a different position, it would matter less.
I would say it wouldn't matter
But
when you
that's
play.
fair. That's straight up. That is fair. Um, but because of who he is and because of what he's been through and the position he plays,
Yeah,
I
no,
think it's
like
relevant.
again, I'm
But
saying
I think if the two of them played, if that's the Super Bowl, and the Lions come out victorious, I will sit there and go, it's because they wanted it more. Like that's to me, if that's how it happens, unless they just kick the shit and the Ravens go to hell and Lamar's like 10 interceptions and you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
unless there's an epic collapse.
unless it's a Broncos Seahawks
If
Super Bowl.
yeah, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I can handle that better than Patriots Seahawks.
Yeah.
If it just goes to shit, I watched the Broncos Seahawks. That
No.
first snap went over his head, and I went, "That's it. That's game right there. Boom, over."
Yeah.
And I was right.
Yeah.
To come that close,
Okay,
to come that
we
fucking
don't need to
close,
talk about it. Okay,
I
that was
I'll cry.
never happened. Never
If
happened.
it's a close game though, it's a good game, and the Lions get the win. I will be like because they wanted it more.
Yeah, that's my point. I think the
I would believe,
difference.
yeah,
I'm not gonna get into like again. This is the Super Bowl. This is a long way away. But if those two teams meet, either team, if the Ravens win, it'll be because of Lamar Jackson. Okay, the Ravens win the Super Bowl, it'll be because of Lamar.
yeah,
If the Lions win the Super Bowl, it is
it will
because
be
they
wanted it more.
wanted it more and they were telling every other team in the league to go fuck themselves.
And that's I think that's a fair point. I think that's fair. I respect the shit out of that take. I completely agree with you.
And that is why Detroit's my pick though. Is just
That's fair.
because of what they've been through this season, what's going on,
No, and
and the
that's
way
fair.
they've played and how
And
they've only
I will
lost
say
two
this:
games.
if it weren't his first that I was fighting for, I would be rooting for the Lions.
Well, yeah, no. But again,
Like even if it was his second, if they'd won last year, I would want the Lions.
again,
Like
I'm because I have no dog in the fight, I just
yeah,
want anybody but the Chiefs. Literally
no, and
anybody.
that's fair. That's but
Okay.
like just the story, what they've been through, everything.
Yeah.
I as upset as I will be as a Ravens fan, if the Lions win, as a football fan, I will be happy.
Honestly though, if the Lions beat the Ravens, I don't even think you could be that upset.
On as long as he plays well, I'll get over it. I really will.
Because it's one of
If
those.
he does not play well, I'm gonna be upset. That's a different thing.
Okay, if the
But like,
Ravens play an okay Super Bowl and the Lions win, you can
I don't need the
clearly
Ravens to play an okay Super Bowl. I need him to play an okay Super Bowl.
okay, same thing. For him to play an okay Super Bowl, the Ravens play an okay Super Bowl.
If the
It's
defense goes to shit, I'll get over it.
yeah,
As long as he did everything he could, I'll be like, sounds good. I think you could get back. Um, but like, if it's not the Ravens, the Lions.
yeah. I'm of the opinion it could be literally anybody other than the Chiefs and one other team.
What's your other team?
I cannot have the Steelers winning it. I just hate the Steelers.
I'll
I'm not
throw
even a
shit.
Ravens fan, and I hate the Steelers.
That's fair. I'll throw shit. Just so we're super clear, I will throw shit.
Anybody else, I'll be like, all right, fuck it, they won, sure.
I find it interesting that you had an AFC team. Mine is the NFC. Is my other one. I do not want to win.
Eagles,
Yes. Yeah.
they're close, but if they win,
Ah,
here's the way I thought about it. If the Eagles win, I'm happy for Saquon Barkley.
that's fair. That's fair. I can respect that.
Mainly because Saquon would have
Because
carried them to that Super Bowl.
if they don't, I was thinking about this. I assume we'll discuss it at some point. We talked about the Packers at one point and kind of how their trajectory this season just matches their trajectory from last season. If they upset the Eagles in round 1, there is not a more disappointing season. He didn't get the record. You're not going to get MVP. Maybe you don't get Offensive Player of the Year and you get bounced in round 1 of the playoffs. As him, I would throw shit.
Sirianni would be fired.
Has to be. Has to be. That would I don't think the Packers can make it to the Super Bowl. I do think
They could beat the Eagles.
they could fuck somebody's season up. And Jalen Hurts still has not cleared concussion protocol.
Yeah.
And it's been 2.5 weeks. Like, what the hell is going on? And I don't think Kenny Pickett
Or Tanner McKee
is going to be enough in the playoffs versus a team once again playing with house money.
Yeah.
Like,
so I don't disagree with this like at all. Again,
so
like I look at any team and I can sit there and go, I have a reasonable reason to be like, all right, you won, good for you.
yeah,
Other than
the
the
Steelers
Steelers
and the Chiefs.
and the Chiefs. The only reason I'd be mildly that I could almost stomach the Steelers winning is a Watt wins the Super Bowl.
That's fair.
That is the only thing. But even then, I still don't want it.
That's fair. Perfectly honest with you, I'd be happier if it were JJ.
That would be my thing.
Not
Everybody
to
else,
discredit what TJ's done, because he has had a great career and he is a great defensive player. He did it. I don't. If you watch the Christmas Day game, JJ actually was part of
yeah,
the team that did the Steelers game,
I did watch it.
and he was asked, like, or I'm sorry, TJ was asked because of the situation, who was better. And most brothers, oh, it's me. And he was like, as good as I am, I will never be JJ. I will never be that good. As hard as I work, as much as I do, no one will be JJ.
That's why I wanted
He,
him to sign with the Lions.
I,
I was
he offered. He told D'Amico he would go back. When D'Amico got CJ, he reached out and he was like, if you want, call. And D'Amico said, I think we're good. Enjoy retirement. I wish he'd gone back. I wish he'd gone back.
I don't know if it would matter with the Texans.
I don't. For 1 year, though, to have a winning record, he was making the playoffs. You were going to see Lamar Jackson in round 2.
Maybe.
I don't think they win it, but I would have loved that.
I prefer him. I would have loved it at this point this year. I do. I think one of
To
those.
go to the Lions.
Yeah.
I
Because of
think now, unfortunately, he's been away
it's
too
too.
long.
it's too late. But once Hutchinson got hurt,
Yeah.
if I'm Dan Campbell, I'd call
I'd
him
be
and be
like,
like,
are
"We would bring
you
you in. You have
you
weeks.
available?
You have weeks to get back into game shape."
Like we don't even want you really on the unless you want to take snaps until the playoffs.
Yeah,
But yeah, I just think for him at that point, he's like, I've been away too long. If he'd gone back last year, he wasn't away at all.
yeah.
So,
It's definitely
but yeah, mine, the Chiefs. I can't. And then I, I get the Saquon point. Um,
but like
for him,
I have nothing really against the Eagles other than like so
I
I
don't
just
really have anything against the Eagles. Um, this sounds shitty, but it's the only thing I can think of. It's a point of principle.
okay. Okay.
It's,
I see where you're coming
I'm like,
from.
are you like just?
But I do. I just it is. I don't care.
But I
NFC
would,
wise, literally anyone I could sit there and go, whatever, you won.
yeah.
Even the Rams, who like people will say that's your division rival. I'm
I think if the Rams win, the rest of the NFC should be pissed.
like if the Rams win, I'm like, okay, cool underdog story. Congrats to
Yeah,
Stafford for 2. That's pretty like way to
yeah.
solidify your Hall of Fame status.
I will say, I think if he wins two, I think he's gone.
Well, yeah,
I think if he won this year, he'd be like, and I'm done.
it would be a Peyton Manning.
Yeah. He'd be like, cool, this went way better than I thought it was going to. I'm going to go.
We're just gonna call it. We're just gonna.
Ride into the sunset.
But yeah,
So,
that's
all right. Well, before we get any further into playoff talk, do you want to talk some college football?
yeah. There's only a couple things to talk about. So,
Cool.
uh, obviously, we had mentioned that the Notre Dame game was happening while we were recording last video, so we didn't end up talking about what happened. Notre Dame gets the win over Georgia, 23-10. So they are into the Final Four. So congrats to them. Big win for that program. Only independent school remaining. Pretty impressive. So yeah, college football. These week's games are Notre Dame versus Penn State. That game is Thursday at 4:30. Thursday the 9th, just to be clear. 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Um, you can do the math on when that will be locally. I don't feel like it. Um, so that'll be a fun game. Uh, the 6th versus the 7th seed. Should be an interesting one. We'll kind of see what happens. And then Friday, the 10th at 4:30, Ohio State plays Texas. So another interesting game. Should be a fun one. Should be some good games. Um, no team is at home or away. Is played at a neutral ground. If you didn't know that, now you do. I do actually think that's a lie. Technically, it is technically a lie. Texas is playing in Texas,
Okay.
but it was a random.
Draw. It wasn't meant to happen that
Yeah,
way.
like this was a possibility because that's where this bowl game is played, and they were always going to be scheduled to play in this bowl game. So because they won, they ended up getting this bowl game.
Gotcha.
It's just ended up how it being with the bracket. So technically, Texas is playing in Dallas, so it is a home-ish game,
Yeah.
but not meant to be.
Not to like the Super Bowl is
Is the
meant to be neutral territory.
For the last 2 years it
Tampa
was,
Bay, like it happens.
and then Notre Dame versus Penn State is in a very neutral area. They're playing in Miami, so nowhere near Indiana or Pennsylvania.
Maybe you can shed light on this.
Okay, yeah.
Why?
What do you mean? Why?
Why are these games played on neutral sites?
So these, so the reason is they're bowl games.
Okay.
And all bowl games are played on neutral sites to be fair to both teams. And that's how it's been forever.
Okay.
And that's the case for every bowl game. So, you have,
So the playoffs are just considered bowl games.
yes,
Okay.
because of the naming rights. That is how
Okay.
college football made all their money. So every
Okay.
bowl has a name. So, for
Like the Pop
example,
Tart Bowl and the Rose
yeah.
Bowl and
So we have like the Notre Dame Penn State is the Capital One Orange Bowl. So it's
okay.
always been known as the Orange Bowl. You have the Rose Bowl, like you said. Uh, um, the Ohio State Texas is the Cotton Bowl. Like these, it's the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. just, you just gotta go with it, okay? Just, just
We're
go with it.
screaming about the racism implications of Black Monday, but we let the Cotton Bowl go. All right, cool. Noted. Noted. That's all I'm saying. That's all. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, no,
We can move on, but
I get what you're going for here. But yeah, so
okay, got it.
yeah, that is why. Is in theory it was meant to be a fair way to do it, so they do all bowl games that way.
Uh-huh.
So when they were doing Final Fours, or when like the playoffs was 4 teams, it made more sense because then you just had 2 bowl games,
Yeah.
and then you have the final,
Okay.
and that was also played on neutral ground. But now that you have like all these other ones, they're still just called bowl games, even though they're the college football playoffs. So it does
So
get
the
kind.
reason I ask or I bring it up,
Yeah.
Joel Klatt,
Yes.
does the Herd once a week.
Okay.
He has his own talk show. When I'm listening to my talk shows, and I guess everyone knows if you watch this show actively, if you watch Flocksnest actively, I'm going to say this quickly. You know which shows I watch. I am not going to comment on the drama that has come out about that. I'm not going to comment on Joy Taylor or any of FS1. I'm not going to get into that. It's none of my goddamn business. I'm not doing it. Don't ask. But Joel Klatt will come up if I don't end the show. It auto plays Joel Klatt, and he gave a take. And he's way more involved in college football.
Yes.
So I kind of respect the things he has to say. I think he's well educated. He's well informed. College football differs from the NFL in the regard of I'm a Ravens fan, but I'm not a Raven. You go to school.
Yes.
We've not announced where you go. So you are not just a fan of that team. You are a member of that. You can call yourself that.
Yes.
So there's more of a connection, more of a drive for your team. So it surprises me a little that for playoff teams, you don't have your home crowd.
This is something I think that'll change. Is the first round of playoff games they played at home. They did they did have home and away. I think what they'll end up doing is they'll go back to you'll have the first 2 rounds be home and away. So higher seed is at home. So let's just say first 2 rounds you have Notre Dame was the higher seed, they get to play at home. Next round, Georgia was the higher seed, they get to play at home. Okay. After that round, we go back to the old way of where you have now the final 4 teams. Those two are split then into the 2 traditional bowl games that have always been there. Because it's always been the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. You're just gonna have to get over it.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get over it. I just
Is it bad that bowl game's always been played in Texas, by the way? Just want to throw that out there. just want to.
It could be worse. It could be played in Georgia.
Yeah.
I think, but like
that is fair. No, that's where the
we're
National
yelling about
Football
Black Monday, but we let Cotton Bowl go. Like that's my thing.
They did at least. That's where the national championship is played, though, is Georgia.
So like, Jesus fuck. Um,
But
got it. And that's fair. And that's I don't have
no,
an
like
opinion. I'm
I
just a little
think
surprised
I
by
think
it.
you're right. By the way, I think he's right. I
Okay.
think they should because that is the point of college football. Is it is a the connection with the fans and the connection within
With the
the
school
the
and all of
students
it.
and having because it's not the same. Even though a lot of times, like especially right now, they do still send student sections to the games,
Yeah.
and a lot of times they are funded through other means. Like for example, a thing you've seen a lot is Taco Bell is a
Yeah.
main sponsor of college football, and they recently have been paying for students to go and to have
Okay.
like an actual student section at these neutral events for both teams. I still think it should be that you have them in their own stadiums, okay? Because each team has their own thing.
Yeah.
For example, I don't know if you've seen this, Virginia is it Virginia Tech? Fuck. I don't want to get it wrong because then I'll feel bad. I think it's Virginia Tech. Is it Virginia Tech or is it Virginia?
I don't know what we're talking about. Otherwise, I would look it up.
One of them, before every game, plays Enter the Sandman without fail, and the players run out to Enter the Sandman. I'm pretty confident it's Virginia Tech. And every time that happens, you have students jumping up and down, the stadium gets really loud. It is one of the best environments in college football.
You're right. It's Virginia Tech. And
Okay.
if you type in which college football team, it autofills runs out to Enter the Sandman.
Oh yeah,
It
no,
assumes that's what you're asking.
yeah, it's a big deal. This is like a
So,
thing. You have Enter the Sandman for Virginia Tech. You have Jump Around is I believe Wisconsin, in which in the middle of the game they'll play Jump Around, and every student in the stands is literally jumping.
yeah.
It makes the loudest noise possible when you're jumping on metal stands. Okay, you have the I can't remember who does it now. I'm not gonna do that one. You have um
Basically, in short, each team,
yeah.
all these teams, all these college teams, because you can sit there and say, I am a Bulldog. I am a fill in the blank.
So they all have these
And you have these
traditions.
traditions.
That's the word I'm looking for. You have traditions. So you have like Clemson's run out where they go down that giant hill. That
Yeah.
is a tradition. That I think is better for
College football
the playoffs to be.
in the playoffs.
So
So,
that's
yeah,
my
I
thing.
just, I wanted your take. I am still new to college football. I'm still building my repertoire, but I did hear a take from someone I respected that I was curious about.
Joel Klatt is probably the best college football analyst out there.
And I've been
So
listening. I've been a little bit listening to his
I
podcast,
didn't know he did one.
the Joel Klatt Show. Yep, and he's on the herd
Huh.
every Monday.
I don't watch talk shows. Probably
Yep,
won't start.
that's
But
fine.
I would probably watch his because I do
You
respect him a
can
lot.
listen to it as a podcast if you prefer.
I
But yeah, I Joel Klatt does have one, and it has been beneficial to me as someone trying to get into college football.
but yeah, that would be. I do agree. I do think it would be insanely fun, and the atmospheres would be so much better to have a playoff style atmosphere at these college footballs
Because I just
stadiums.
can't help but wonder, NFL is different, and the Super Bowl is different. It's easier to travel as a fan. It's easy.
Yes.
Every celebrity on the fucking planet is suddenly a fan of Team X, and you still get that environment in college football. I feel like so much of your fan base is current and
Students.
past. It's students and alumni. And
Yeah,
when you take it on the road, I mean, I think you get truly the definition of a neutral field. Is everyone's like, we don't care.
that's
We're just here to watch college football.
my thing. It's like you have all of these traditions that I think would just
Yeah,
benefit from being that would just be beneficial for a college football environment, like for a college football playoff environment. It's
yeah,
seriously
and
like as a
that's
college
fair.
football fan that has seen some like incredible atmospheres in terms of like what Virginia Tech does with Enter the Sandman, what
Yeah,
Wisconsin does with Jump Around, what like teams do with this kind of stuff. Could you imagine that in a playoff environment? How much more it could
yeah.
possibly be?
No, I have a hard time disagreeing with that.
So
So yeah,
that's
I wanted your take. I asked for a reason.
I gave you the reason. I don't like
Yeah.
the reason.
No, I meant like how you felt about it.
Oh yeah,
So
I do. I think they'll change it because I think college football will realize that they kind of need to do that because I think a lot of
well, and
people are
especially
asking
like
for it.
with more teams and more rounds, like that's how that works. There's no reason you can't stick to your traditional. We have 4 bowl games or 2 bowl games, and everything else. The higher seeds at home.
Yeah.
I do think to do that though, you have to reseed.
I think to do that, you do it differently. I think you forego how they're currently doing automatic bids.
That's fair.
In order to do it how they want to, I think how they should do it is rather than have one through four be your conference champions, a conference champion still gets an automatic bid, but then they are seeded accordingly. So let's say Oregon was still top, number one, won their conference. They're still number one.
Yeah.
Georgia was number two, won their conference. They're still number two. Boise State was at like 12, won their conference. They should maybe move up a little bit, maybe be like 11, 12, like somewhere in that range, but they
Yeah.
should not be three. Okay. Arizona State should not be four, but they should still be in the tournament.
Yeah.
So you're still promoting winning your conference, but you're no longer.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I don't hate that for the NFL. Part of
Okay,
the reason Detroit, Minnesota was such a big deal is they are the two
best teams
teams with the best record
in the NFC.
in the NFC. But the loser of that game is now the 5 seed.
Yeah.
So if you instead took, okay, you won your division, so you're entitled to a bid or a spot, you're guaranteed a spot, but then your spot is determined
By
by
everybody
your record
else.
and other factors.
Yes. I think that is how college football should be.
I don't hate that for the NFL either, honestly.
I
I'm gonna
don't
be completely
either.
honest with you. Because then the 1 seed still gets the bye. Um, and then take the AFC version. The Texans are the 4 seed.
Yeah.
The likelihood they make it out of round one,
Yeah, they're playing the
but it will
Chargers.
be considered an upset.
Yeah.
So I think you just do it a little differently. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
That's my thought though.
Yeah,
And how they do it. I
I
think a
like it.
lot of this is going to change. I think this first season was very much a trial run as to
Yeah,
what college football is doing.
that's I. You had mentioned that before. I mean, the first year you do anything, it's how does this going to work? How does it look in the end?
So I think what
What
they'll
did we
end up
like? What did we not like?
I think what they'll end up doing is keeping how they do it, but then just changing, you know, maybe changing how seeds work
Yeah.
and then reseeding. And that's pretty much all you have to change. And then having home games for the first 2 rounds. And then
I
playing
like
on
it.
neutral.
I like it. Maybe next year I'll have more takes. This year I'm taking in the information.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. So, okay, cool. Well, then let's look ahead to wild card weekend.
Yeah.
Probably not going to spend a ton of time on this. We've jumped around a little bit. We've talked plenty. How it's going to go from kind of here on out if you're still with us. Obviously, I'll be following the Ravens. Say they do get bounced in round one. I'm going to take the AFC half of the playoffs, and my co-host
I'll take
Brendan,
the NFC half. You know,
and that's how we're going to do this.
NFC.
Obviously,
AFC.
we both have our picks, but rather than we each pick a game or we each just talk about what interesting happened, we're just going to split it in half. Go from there. I am going to kick it off really quickly. AFC matchups Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, whatever time. Yeah, I'm with Brendan. I don't have the mindset to do that math. Chargers at Houston. 5 p.m. Pacific time. I'm very unhappy about that, by the way. Very unhappy. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. I'm supposed to be in bed at that time. Not thrilled. Don't love it. Uh, Sunday, 10 a.m. Denver at Buffalo. I do think LA wins their game. I think that's the one upset out of round one. Everything else I expect to break according to the seed. I do think it's possible Denver comes away with the win. I don't expect them to. I just do think it's possible.
All right. On the NFC side, we have the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles playing at 1:30 p.m. on Sunday. Also on Sunday, we have the Washington Commanders taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is happening at 5 p.m. Sunday. And then on Monday, we have the Minnesota Vikings versus the Los Angeles Rams at 5 p.m. So, some good games. Technically, uh, there is room for 2 upsets, with the Rams and the Buccaneers. But considering Rams are at home, Buccaneers at home, Phillies at home, uh, according to records, Washington and Minnesota are better than Tampa Bay and Los Angeles, but whatever. Um, so yeah, should be some interesting games. Um, and we'll see kind of what happens.
Yep. Should be a good weekend. Um, I don't think maybe Texas, but I'm not sitting here looking at any game going. I think it's a complete blowout. I don't think one team has a shot. I think it should just be a really good weekend.
Yeah, we'll kind of see what happens.
And obviously, the Chiefs and the Lions are on bye.
Bye. So
We
we
won't
won't
see
talk about
them
them.
until next week. I mean, we've talked about them plenty.
Yeah, 2 best teams in the league, so it's fine.
Two most winning teams in the league. Let's calm down with best.
Records wise, they are the 2 best teams in the league. Until the Chiefs prove that they're not,
No, and that's fair. That's fair.
that's the problem.
Fucking
Dallas.
doinked field goal though.
It
That's some
it doesn't matter.
bullshit.
It doesn't matter. Dallas, it doesn't
No, I
matter.
know. I just it's crazy. It's crazy.
They're winning every game by like a literal toe.
Haunts me. It haunts me. Fucking Justice Hill's fault. couldn't just hang on with Chris Jones one-on-one just a little bit longer.
Yeah, blame the running back for not being able to block one of the best defensive players in the league.
He'd have seen Zay. He just have to take on Chris Jones one-on-one, just another couple of moments, and it'd have been fine.
All right.
Alrighty, well, did you have any other thoughts on football, college,
No,
anything?
I don't. I'll be watching playoffs, and I'll be sat back, relaxed, not a dog in the fight in either sport. So
Just
technically, actually, that's not true. That is technically not true. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I just don't go
that's
there.
fair. Okay, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
Like
that's a
I
school he does not
grew,
go to.
I grew up a Notre Dame fan, but that is not the school I go to.
We have a Rudy at home.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, my dog is named after Rudy, the movie. So there you go.
He doesn't like the movie. He's not a fan.
He does not. He's a weirdo. He doesn't like sports. I'm pretty sure. It's unfortunate.
I don't think he minds sports. He doesn't like us watching sports.
Therefore, he doesn't like sports. What are you supposed to do with sports? Watch it.
You're supposed to yell at the TV aggressively.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. Positive or negative.
Yeah. That's the whole point. But yeah, that being said, I got nothing else.
Awesome.
That being said, I think that does it for us here today. Remember, like, subscribe, comment. We want to hear from you. Let us know how you feel about the playoffs, who your Super Bowl pick is.
Heck yeah.
Who's
Who's more scary? Patriot or no? Fuck no.
Definitely not them.
Steelers or Bills?
Yeah. That. Let us know. Let us know your opinions on that. That being said, this has been Flocksmith's Podcast. Thank y'all for joining us. I've been Brendan.
And I've been Dallas.
And see you.